Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fifth and last day of IndieX 2025. I am Sir Beckers, and I'm going to be playing Constance. Constance is a 2D hand-drawn action-adventure featuring a paintbrush-wielding artist striving to escape from a colorful but decaying inner world created by her declining mental health. And with me, I have Edgar, part of the team that worked on the game. Hello there, Edgar. How are you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Edgar, how would you describe Constance as if this was like an elevator pitch for you to sell your game?
Well, you've kind of already read it, but yeah. Constance is the typical search action, or better known as Metroidvania, um, type platformer, um, where you paint, you play as this girl who basically is representing art. She's an artist who's going through like a mental struggle and
Mhm.
finds herself suddenly in this weird world where everything seems to be kind of falling apart and trying to find like what she's doing there and how to get out. Not gonna say much more for spoiler
Okay.
territory, but essentially that's the setup.
Okay. I think we can go from there, and we'll talk a little bit about influences and whatnot, because some seem to be pretty obvious, or maybe not, and so you'll let me know.
Okay.
I'm gonna start the game. I will do. Yeah, I'm gonna start a new game in case the demo ends sooner than I expect. Okay. So, so actually, I would like to start with a question.
Yeah.
Constance is wielding a paintbrush, right? And
Yes.
her hair seems to be paint somehow. Um,
Yeah.
what is that about? I mean, so why the painting? Why art? Or why?
Okay. Now you're talking about a little bit about how our story came about. Um.
Huh?
So none of the story on Constance is fictitious. So essentially, this all started from a personal story from our director, speaking through, about a panic attack and some issues he was having, and kind of his struggles regarding, you know, what he was doing with his life. And from there, the idea for the game was born of the idea from being an artist, but be doing something that you're not. Um, I'm gonna say happy with, for
Mhm.
lack of a better word, right now. Um, but the thing is, everyone has their own stories, their own struggles. Um, and so slowly but surely, as the team joined the project, everyone's story got put in, right? So there's a part there that's about me. There's stuff about
Oh, interesting.
our artists. And so Constance's story is actually a combination of the stories of all the different artists, basically, background, and their basically their traumas, stuff that they went through. Normally you say that if you want to write well, write about what you know about, right? And this is
Uh-huh.
kind of what we did, where she's basically an amalgamation. Her past is an amalgamation of true stories from ourselves, um, which then are translated into this one character. Um, and so, yeah, that's why she's an artist, because that's kind of who she's representing in this specific case. And then, as I said, this is kind of a fantasy setting here. There is a real
Mhm.
world Constance, but in the fantasy setting, she herself is art, right? Like she has her hair is made of paint. She fights with the brush and so on. But that thing around her neck, that's not a cape, right? That's a blanket, which is a
Oh,
representation of her being grabbing a blanket for safety.
right.
Um,
So oh wait, so
but
you
I'm
you,
gonna
you told
stop there so I don't start saying too much.
yeah, okay. So I'm gonna ask a question that it may be too much to for you to answer. So tell me if you
Yeah,
cannot
no,
answer
go
this.
ahead.
But you just told us that there seems to be, in a way, two Constances. So
Yes.
Constance in this world and Constance in another world. So do we get to go to that another world, or is just
Yes.
like the end game? Like we finish the game and we get there?
No. So, how do I explain this without being too spoilerish? So, first of all, if you watch the trailer, you see the real content, right? She
Okay.
appears in almost every trailer, I believe, or every
Okay.
trailer. So basically, the game starts with real constants, and then during the game, at crucial narrative moments or narrative beats, you have. I can say this; it's okay. You have basically flashbacks
Okay.
of her past story, like there is.
Okay.
And during those moments, and that's even in our Steam description, you don't really get cutscenes. You get these playable mini games. You know a game called What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yes, perfectly.
It's very similar to that, right? It's like the
Okay.
story moments, they're narrative, but you're actually playing through them.
Okay.
And those are all in the real world, right? They're like flashbacks. And then yes, the game at some point will return to that.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah,
So, there seems to be a, and you just talked about What Remains of Edith Finch, which I also believe has a lot of mental health inspiration, or some part of the narrative is definitely related to personal struggles and
yeah,
family struggles and whatnot.
family, yeah.
And this, and here I can see, or I can feel there's some association with Celeste as an inspiration, maybe, or how does that
Hmm.
work? Because you said that this was very personal stuff overall, right? So
Yeah.
the story gets all of your personal issues, the people from the team that had to deal with certain issues and certain challenges. And so, is that like inspired? Was it like, well, we have stories to tell, or is it like, well, we would like to make a game like Celeste in this regard?
Oh
So,
no,
how does
no.
that work?
The inspiration from the influence from Celeste is much later. It has really to do with being a
Okay,
precision platform.
okay,
There's nothing to do with Celeste's story per se or
okay.
anything visual from it. It's really that if you want to look at, it wasn't just Celeste. To be honest, it was like Super
Mhm.
Meat Boy, any precision
Oh,
platformer. Celeste just being the latest, also one of the best, and probably one of the more precise compared to in terms of feel to Super Meat Boy. But
mhm,
both of
mhm.
them and others, Super Mario Brothers, etc., are references more in the platforming side of things.
Okay,
Um, the story actually not story, but the what the game was going to be about came almost at the same time that it was a decision it's going to be a Metroidvania, because that was Sebastian.
okay.
That's he literally wanted to do a game to kind of express his issues, right? So it kind of,
Mhm, mhm.
and at the time, he was just, I don't know, playing Metroidvanias. He hadn't played All Night that long ago, and his brain went like, you know what? I like this kind of stuff, this kind of game. I want to do one of these. I think they could be very good to represent this kind of idea.
Okay,
And yeah,
okay,
so those two things came together at the same time. It wasn't really, I'm looking at this game, I want to do a game like that. Um,
okay. So, yeah, sorry. Maybe the question sounded on the more the negative side. Not
oh no,
exactly
not at all,
what I
not
meant.
at all. That's actually
Yeah,
a more than plausible way to start a game, right? Play something you see, I would like to do
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Just
Right.
wasn't the
So,
case in here.
okay. So does that mean that by the end, so we're gonna have? So right now, I'm seeing a game that honestly feels very similar to your typical Metroidvania, like Hollow Knight. Right? We have combat, we have exploration,
Hmm.
we have, I would say, for now, very easy platforming. Right? So it's so far pretty straightforward. Does that mean
Probably
that
gonna
by
eat your
the end?
words in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's gonna get, so this is gonna shift a little bit, and we're gonna have a lot more platforming stuff and more challenges in that regard.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so the game, so using those kind of references you just mentioned, like All Night, or even,
Mhm.
I would say it's more Metroid than it is All Night in that respect, in the sense that there's a lot more platforming. Hollow
Mhm.
Knight is very combat focused. While
Yeah.
we do have combat, we have mini bosses and all of that. We are not that combat focused
Okay.
compared to
Nice.
that. So there's more on the platforming side. The other thing with this formula that a lot of games in the genre don't have is we also have some puzzles, and there it's
Okay.
more like the Zelda-like kind of influence comes in, where you have these areas where essentially you have to solve puzzles that use your same mechanics that you use for combat and platform. So the idea is that that's why we chose these mechanics, because they all can solve things in all these three different genres, right? Like platform, combat, puzzles.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
but percentage-wise, I would say puzzle is the smallest. Combat is somewhere
Mhm.
in the middle, and platforming is the biggest.
Okay. Okay. So let's capture. I need to capture straight away. Here.
I actually have
There we
a
go.
funny story about this one.
Yeah. You go.
So we were already developing kind of like a system like this. Initially was
Uh,
actually even more complicated. We were going to use shaders and make it like painterly and stuff. and then suddenly Prince of Persia comes out, The Lost Crown.
Yeah.
And when that game comes out, I didn't play it, but my director actually played it, and he goes, "Dude, they have the snapshot feature," and I went like, "Wait, what?" They just did a snapshot. That's it. They literally just did a screenshot. They're not doing all of this extra stuff on top of it. It
Okay.
worked so well that it actually ended up being great for us because it was kind of like a proof of concept that also helped us make a decision to make things easier on ourselves. So we just went with the screen capture also, with a few flourishes, of course, because this guy's a photographer. We still put some flourishes on it, but it's funny to be developing a game and you're working on X feature, and while you're working on it, another game comes out that has that exact feature, in the same
Right.
genre, that you had never seen before, and that
It
kind
kind
of
of
stuff
validates
happens.
your idea, right?
Yeah, it validates the idea. Of course, it I think it's actually kind of nice that people now just say stuff like, "Oh, they grabbed the idea from a Prince of Persia," and regardless
Yeah.
of the truthfulness of or not of that, the good thing about it is that people recognize the system already, so those players already know it and use it. So it also does that. That's useful for you, because any player that's played Prince of Persia knows how to use that system. They're used to it because they've seen it
Right.
before.
Right.
It's like think of jumping, right? No one thinks of jumping because games where you jump have been out forever, right? So
Right.
that kind of stuff, funnily enough, never bothers us because it ends up being useful for us as players are familiar with mechanics.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a question. Um, regarding the photographs and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
i- taking photos is presented. It seems to me that it's a game mechanic, right? So it's a way
Yeah.
for you to uh, somewhat update your map, or at least that's how or at least you can like take a picture that goes along with your map, right? So we know that in this specific part we have this picture that we can probably check. This made me think about. Um, well, then again, making the parallel with, for example, markers in Hollow Knight, where you can just mark the map for you to remember something. Is this intended in this way, or just it's just a way for you to document your journey? Is it so? It's like it's just a way of taking cool screenshots, or is also part of the gameplay for you to mark the map? So I was there, I took a screenshot because I want to go back there eventually. What is the trend? The
It's
thought process
literally a
behind that?
marker. So the thing or thought process is that a marker is useful, but the problem is it doesn't exactly show you why you put the marker
Exactly.
there, right?
Exactly.
So a marker. So I'll speak myself as a gamer now instead of as a game developer. So um, any Metroidvania that you played, you have most of them. You have these markers, and when you
Yes.
use them, sometimes games give you even not even Metroidvanias, even Ubisoft, right? Assassin's Creed and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
on. They give you a couple of markers, maybe 5 colors with different symbols. But the thing is, those don't match exactly like the look of them of what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to, I don't know, mark treasure, or you're trying to mark um, a combat I want to return to later, whatever it is, right?
Right. Right.
And the issue with that is later, when you put the marker, but later when you're playing, what was that again? I don't remember.
Yes.
Was that locked because I don't have an ability? Is that what I'm trying to say there?
Right.
Or am I
Right.
trying to remember a place for me to visit again because X, Y, Z? And so the screenshot feature, what it does is it's just remove that. Right? Essentially, you take a picture and you literally look at the picture and go like, ah, that's because I didn't have a double jump. I cannot reach. It's a high ledge. Or that thing is something a puzzle that I haven't solved and left it for later that I'm gonna come back here to solve it. So I do have everything. I can go back there and hit it. And so there's just it's a quality of life, I think,
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
feature that just helps with the idea of removing an overload of information that you're
Right.
asking the player to memorize at any given point, and just say, this is the game about memorization, right? Just
Right.
play it, mark the thing you want to need. It's more about being aware of space. It's about being, spatial awareness, platforming, a skill, all of those things, but not like memory, and removing that element from the game. That's kind of like where the thing came from, the idea. And then it's just a matter of seeing what players do with it, because we've even seen people here's the funny part: who have used the screenshot feature as more than just that. Like they will use it to, I really like this corner, I want to take a screenshot.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah,
they do that, which is really nice, also.
yeah,
And
and you managed to incorporate that through photography. So keeping
yeah,
this around the art
yes,
narrative or world building element.
exactly. Because in the game, like while she's representing paint and kind of painture, there's other arts being represented, photography being one of them, and at some point also sculpture and other stuff, jewelry, so on. And so yeah, this was important to us that all the features somehow connected back to the game.
Right. So I have another question in regards to the world. So, for example, right now we are in a, I don't know if you call it biome or area.
Mhm.
That seems to be like, so we have a lot of plants, or there's a lot of nature going on, a lot of light, but also we have some, well, robots, right? Starting with the
Mhm.
photography guy, now with this lift here. So how does that all tie together with this idea of mental health and without spoiling too much, right? I mean, these questions are always tough depending on how the game progresses.
Yeah, yeah,
What
of
can you tell
course.
us about that?
Yeah, no, relatively free to talk about that. It's a lot of
Mhm,
basically everything in this world is mine. So,
mhm,
right, and so they're all influenced by um things that she's one way or another dealing with, or that are part of her life, whether that's influences, um, or anything else that genre. And so in this case specifically, right, we call it the Foundry. You see
mhm,
kind of this, Art Deco style, sorry, Art Nouveau, apologize, Art Nouveau style, and the fact that there's robots, right? And
mhm,
so without spoiling exactly why those two things specifically, um, one of them has to do with tools and the use of automation and all the different things of the. And when I mean automation, I don't mean AI. I mean the
mhm,
fact that when you're doing certain tasks, a lot of it is repetitive, right?
mhm, mhm.
Um, I'm not gonna say much more than that, so I don't reveal too much. But essentially, the robots are connected to that idea.
Okay.
Um, and the art nouveau has to do with the fact that during the game, there's these basically artistic influences that you will find in the game. By the way, just a side note, because I see
Yeah.
because of our conversation you're getting accidentally lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Somewhat.
go back to your right.
Yeah. 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 No, I
It's
was
hard
just
to
saying.
talk and pay attention to a game at the same time.
Right. No, it's fine because the sometimes the demos are. I mean, we're just showcasing a little bit. So
Yeah,
I was using my pros, so I just remember what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. But I'm
yeah,
just going through my thought process when I'm playing a game. Like, let
yeah.
me
I
go
know.
back see if I missed anything. But yeah, I
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
forgot about this lift here. There we go.
yeah. So the and so every biome. So now we're talking about like the environment.
Mhm,
Every biome is influenced basically by um an aspect of someone she knows in her life or someone she admired. So it does sense
mhm.
someone else. Okay.
Okay.
And so here it has to do specifically with the person. Um, that's more like a reference. Some others have to do with actual people that are in her life, and so on. But then that's kind of like the layers of depth that will leave players to kind of like figure out the references there. There's a lot of
Right.
references in the game to both other games, but also other art forms in general. That's not the game.
So, and in that regard, so how long would this game be? So, what should we expect? A very thorough game with a lot of hours or just like a linear story that it's not super complex. So, like there are Metroidvanias nowadays that are incredibly complex and long, right? So they resemble, I don't know, Souls-like in that regard because they have a lot of story going on and a lot of hidden lore for you to uncover. How is Constance in that way?
Yeah, no. So we are not a 60-hour Metroidvania. That's definitely not our thing.
Okay.
We're more classical in that respect, more true to the Metroidvania formula, with how Metroid and other Castlevania type games. So there's story there, but we don't go crazy over that.
Mhm.
A lot of the story, again, it's focused on gameplay. The game. And in terms of actual hours, of course, this will depend a lot if you explore more of the game or less. But somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. So again, the classical size for one of a game like that. Of course, it can go higher because something funny is that this demo, for instance, you're playing right now, it was intended that most people, on average, a very fast player will finish it in, under 10 minutes. A medium person would take like 25. That's not at all what happens, right? To put the demo out, and this has been the case since our first demo, and it's like people are taking an hour and a half suddenly to
Okay.
finish this one demo, right?
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah, you've just touched on a thing that's no longer in the game, which is the distance of that tile set there is a mistake. So the
Okay.
jump is way too tight.
It's tight, yeah. But I think I've made it before, so
Yeah,
I'm kind of
yeah, yeah.
stubborn. I'm
It's
kind of
always
stubborn.
possible. It's just that. But um, so yeah, so with the demo, there's people taking a long time, either because they're like really want to find everything in the demo, or because they just like to take their time, or they die a lot. There's actually an area in the demo that's not accessible in the real game at this point of the game, right? Only later, and
Ah,
also that is not exactly how you see it right now. As first, that's one of the puzzles I was mentioning earlier, alluding. Um, and the fact is, in the demo, we left that extra challenging area accessible now. We made it accessible now because we kind of wanted to just showcase a little bit so players get an idea. Oh, this game
I
can
see.
get to this level, right? Like it can get hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. And actually that brings us to a new mechanic that I actually found out when I died the first time, and it's here right now. So we can go back to the last, let's call it, checkpoint or save game point, right? Those arcs where we rest, I guess. Or we can persevere, and the puppet's curse will befall you, empowering all enemies. Why?
Why?
Or so what's the idea? I mean, I understand it's like, oh my god, I don't want to go back so much and just want to go on, but this is gonna it's just that, like, okay, so you can go on, but there's a penalty.
Yeah. Okay. So the there's a thing that we couldn't get away from, right? Just because of like audience expectation, which is this is a Metroidvania, and
And
so one of the core tenets of Metroidvania is that you have save points that act also as your checkpoints, like your respawn. In other words, that means that if you die, you will go back to that. Been there for every Metroid, every Metroidvania, for all night, for every game in the
uh-huh.
genre. This is the thing, right? It's part of its formula. The same way as roguelikes have like permadeath, Metroidvanias have this thing where it's like you have specific, very old school like save points, and when you die, you go back to those, right? There's no like mid checkpoints that when you die, you can return there. Um, but we are doing a game about mental health, and so we wanted the game to be a little bit more accessible than that. Also, um, there is there's a lot, especially in modern Metroidvania, because old Metroidvanias had this also, but there was a bigger reason for that. This is a whole conversation of design, but I'm going to keep it short. But essentially, in old Metroidvanias, actual Metroid specifically, you would backtrack a lot, but a big part of those games had to do with the mood and also the idea of exploration and really incentivizing that. It wasn't really about the punishment of having to traverse things again, right? Um, but that has kind of changed in Metroidvanias a little bit. Um, and there were two things we were worried. We don't want to have players backtrack a lot.
Okay.
At the same time, we have hardcore platforming, so we cannot do this thing where you go back to like the save point and you just keep repeating that. That's not fair platforming side of the game, right? You should never do that in the platformer. And so how do we do this? How do we keep the Metroidvania formula while at the same time giving them the Celeste Super Mario thing, right? Where it's
Right.
like try again as many times as you want. And so we came up with this system where essentially the player can try as many times as they want. However, if we just made that an option, like these two options with nothing to them, there's no reason why players would ever return to a shrine. They would always just repeat
Okay.
the turn, right? You're removing weight from that
Okay.
turn.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. Of course.
You add weight. Okay, let's start with simple things. Okay, you can only equip inspirations when you're at the shrine. That's not enough, right? You do that sometimes when you're playing. You don't do that all the time. It's not enough of a reason. Okay, let's make sure that the save points are still close enough to at least main stuff like bosses. Like we have shortcuts, kind of like you would say Dark Souls, right? You put
Right.
shortcuts right before bosses so that if the player does want to return to a shrine when they're at the boss, it's not a long trek, right? The Foundry has the longest trek, and it's like 2 rooms. In the case of every other biome, it's either 1 room or none at all, right? It's in the same room. So, okay, we can do that. Still not enough, right? People keep repeating the room. Okay, and so you keep iterating and thinking on this thing, and it's very obvious from the start as a designer, just from experience, that what you need is what we call design a push-pull system, right? Which is like you give something, but you kind of pull back at the same time. So
Okay.
for a long time, even in our public demos, if you
Uh-huh.
for people who have been following us from the start, they've seen 3 different systems with this at least, um, because we've tried 3 different things, right, publicly, because we wanted a lot of testing. And so
Yeah. And
initially, currency doesn't work, creates a lot of problems.
right.
Um, and some points we had health impediments. That was a problem for platforming. So the best option, and the one that got the best reaction and kept all of their intentions, is this puppet's curse. Because what it does is it only affects combat. But if you die during platforming, it affects you like 0. Because it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't make spikes more aggressive. It doesn't make the game harder in any way when you're platforming. And that keeps like the Celeste Super Mario thing where if you're dying during a hard platforming section, you can persevere, right? It's not an issue.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna ask you that because since you said that combat, even if it's like 50% of the gameplay, it's still not the most prominent element, or at least not the one you wanted the game to revolve around, right? Or the main thing. So it's kind of like
yeah,
it's a
it's
penalty.
very present, but
Yeah,
when you have like entire sections that are like platforming focused, or you have uh, various moments where the hard thing, for instance, in that region isn't the enemies, but it's actually the platforming. What are they dying from, right? Oh, they're dying from
right,
the platforming. And so at that point, you don't want to be punishing them. Hey, you're dying because you missed a platform here or there, and now you're going to have to backtrack 2 rooms to get back to that same platform that you're missing. They're going to miss again, right? You want them to
right.
repeat in the moment. Um, and so that was the idea, that we would give something that incentivizes players. So I'll give you an example of a kind of emergent behavior that we only discovered by implementing this system. So we had this player, we could see his recording as a tester, and
Uh-huh.
we've seen this actually twice. And they did this amazing thing, which was they got to the boss, and they were in persevere mode, which means that the boss itself was also stronger, right?
Uh-huh.
But they kept persevering for, I don't know, 3 tries or 4 tries, right? While they were figuring out the boss, right? Their behaviors, are they behave, all of that
Right.
stuff. And then suddenly when they decide, okay, let me take this down for real, they decide, I'm gonna go back to the shrine now and remove the puppet's curse.
Mm.
They go back to the shrine to remove the puppet's curse, backtrack to the boss, and bam, kill him in 1 shot. So it's like they use the persevere modes to essentially during their training phase, let's call it, and then when they want to make it for real, it's like, okay, now let me actually like go back, get myself full health, and there they go. They're off to the races, and when they get there, because they've been fighting a stronger version of the boss, when they get back to the boss, it's like, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, and they also
And that
that
was
that
great.
allow them to not backtrack, right? So train very fast without backtracking constantly.
Exactly, and it gave them an opportunity, like basically to train this guy in a harsh condition, which they made them so much better at the thing when they actually did decide to backtrack and remove the curse. And that as a behavior was a great one. Another one is just a very what the system can do is you are having a hard time in a certain place, you just decide to go back to the shrine to say, I'm gonna go somewhere else. So this is one of the things we made sure of, was paying careful attention of where we placed the shrines, that they were always kind of at intersections, with a few exceptions where we do need to have them in a specific place, but most of the main shrines are in intersections, so that if the player goes back, like, if they went right, they can now just go left and just decide, let me look at something else. There's actually a very funny and completely not Metroidvania influence there, which is a game called The Witness.
Uh-huh.
And in The Witness, it's like this very hardcore like puzzle game. And but one of the things it has is every time you're trying a puzzle that you cannot figure out, um, you can just leave it and go somewhere else. And I'm gonna try another one and come back to that one later. And the game really incentivizes this. And I kind of also, that was something that we were trying to keep in mind when we were doing this. Like, this is a true non-linear Metroidvania, and so that was something that was important. Like, the beginning of the game is linear, but then later on the game is like you can do things in any order you want.
Okay, so I have a question about that, but let me just tell you that the game gets really tough. I'm already struggling a bit. Um, but it's funny. So it's funny because it's sometimes what I really like about these games, especially when they mix platforming and combat, is that I feel like a ninja. It's kind of very fun to play through. But regarding what you were just saying, so I wanted to ask you something, which is you talked about puzzles, and I understand that puzzles here are also some platforming challenges, or for example, the mechanic of opening those doors, like I did before. Are there how should I put it? So certain puzzles will definitely be straightforward. You have to click two things to open a door, for example. But are there
Mm.
puzzles with different strategies that the player can use to overcome it? Or
Yes, um, a lot of them are kind of these two to three solutions maximum, or one
okay,
solution type puzzles, like a puzzle. There are a few that have more than one possible solution, but also not all puzzles are like the ones here in this demo. One of the things in this demo that we did, and why you're playing in this region, which isn't like the first thing you encounter in the game, to be clear. This isn't the
okay,
start of the game. Um,
that's kind of you. This is stuff.
the thing is, here there's way more focus on platforming, right? We
Yeah.
internally even call this the platforming arm of this biome. Um, and there are other areas of the game where you have puzzles that are less platforming and more like traditional puzzle. In fact, one of them I'm not going to talk about too much without spoiling,
Mhm.
and it only shows up like a little bit on the trailer, is there are things where the gameplay of the game like changes a lot suddenly, of what you're actually, how you're behaving and what you're doing. And I won't say much more than that because it
Right,
would be
right,
too
right.
much of a spoiler. We are looking forward to people's reaction on that respect. Um, but I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but
No, it does. I mean, you just answered my question overall. Like this idea. I just wanted to understand if there are puzzles that I could expect to find my own way of going around them, and that if you have sometimes more than one choice in
yeah,
that
there's a
sense.
couple of them that we have more than one solution. But first, this one you're in right now, that's a one solution puzzle,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a sequence, so you have to figure out the sequence. However,
Exactly.
how you accomplish that thing in what time, there's one way that I do it, and we do it because it's like certain, but I have seen players do kind of unexpected things where they're still able to pull it off. um but in general, the tighter they are, the more one solution they are. Like this one, for instance, is tight on purpose. Not too tight, but it's still tight on
Hmm.
purpose because it's locking some like a complete bonus area, which by the way is what you're about to enter once you do this puzzle. Is that's the bonus area that's like in the full game you're not accessible at this point. Um, it's a, and so this puzzle is kind of like a big gate. Like try to solve this thing first, and then hey, here's what you find after it.
It's tricky because I feel like there is so each of them take a specific amount of time. I feel
hmm
so. I imagine there is an ideal order of pulling this off. but because I'm not being very systematic about my approach, I'm actually
So
not
this
sure.
puzzle requires a little bit of that, because all others, you could entirely see the cables, right? The actual path.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, we're hiding it. So you have to actually pay attention of to the timing of it, right? How long
Let
it's
me see.
taking.
So that one takes forever. Actually seems to be the faster one. Okay, so it's probably this one, that one. Yes, but with a slight delay. Okay, I think I get it. Let me try again.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Or no, actually, no, this has to be faster. No, this one takes forever. So this one is to be the first one. Damn.
This is very funny to always see people play test your stuff and
Damn.
how people go through their thought processes.
Yeah, no, it's.
And one of the things we asked a lot of times with testers whenever they felt comfortable while recording was would you mind speaking your thoughts out loud, right?
Right. So
as
that's
they're playing, so we
yeah.
can hear what they're thinking as they're playing. It was one of the most useful things.
Yeah, that's common practice within usability testing, right?
Yeah.
I'm a UX researcher, so that's stuff I do not in games, but that's definitely a very interesting idea of understanding what the user is thinking, right? Let me stuff. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat to relax a little bit. So Seychelles is asking if you're testing Steam Deck compatibility. So let me just answer Seychelles straight away with one thing. I am playing every single game on Linux right now. So I'm playing this on Linux. So at least in that regard, it's compatible for sure. We're thinking about hardware stuff and
It
whatnot.
plays on the Steam Deck. Yeah.
So and
In
now,
fact, people are even a demo can be. If you download the demo on your Steam Deck, it should be playable.
yeah, that's what I did. Just had to I downloaded this on a specific Linux distribution, playing on my computer, but just had to change some compatibility settings because this is not a Steam Deck usually has that enabled, I believe. So
There it is.
oh, I made it.
You had already done this sequence, but the thing was, you didn't realize that you hit the first one and then it took forever to hit the second one, right? Because you felt like the jump, and so you went. And because that failed, instead of thinking, yeah, let me just correct that mistake I did, it's like, no, you just went like, that's not it yet.
Yeah.
It was so funny to see that your own mistake made you. And
Yeah,
this is the kind of thing that happens a lot when anyone's going through this and you see this in testing, right? It's like a thing that you did misleads you into something else. And puzzle solving, like I've been working in this industry for many years now, and this is just, again, if you're in UX, you know this, right? It's just the kind of stuff that you just currently always see, right?
Right. I think actually I managed to overcome it when I got distracted. And I just tried kind of randomly, and just I went with the flow, and it happened. So it was.
Yeah, because you were quick, also because you just
Exactly,
went bang, 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 and it solved it. Yeah.
Like I wasn't like I have to hit this, and that. It was actually kind of random, so I'm not gonna.
By the way, this is the more hardcore platforming section, the bonus room that I mentioned earlier.
Stuff, but I think I can pull some of this off. I wanted to ask you something, Edgar. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are the what should people expect in regard to this game in the future? So we are yet to see a release date, which actually happens to be 24th of November, right? So it's one day after my son's second birthday. So I think I'm gonna try to use that as an excuse to buy the game. Yeah, but so what should we expect about this game? So should you expect DLCs, extra content in the future? Is that, or is this a closed story and it's gonna be it for now?
No, the intention. This really depends on how well the game does, right? So, in terms of planning, we do have plans for DLCs, but we cannot promise we're going to do DLCs unless the game sells well, because it has to pay for. We have to pay for those DLCs somehow, right? We're not a company who can just like work on stuff. We don't have the infinite money glitch, but there are updates that are gonna come for sure, and those we have a couple of them planned. which are stuff that does have stuff that we had to cut for time, or that simply is stuff that we have planned. So, for instance, one of the first updates we're going to do for sure internally, we're calling it the accessibility update, which is the idea is that besides all of the typical stuff when the game comes out, which is every single game, it doesn't matter how perfect and how well it runs, there's always a bug that someone has. So fixing all of that stuff. We also are going to be adding the missing language, which is Arabic. That's not going to be on launch because it's not dependent on us. And we also have planned a bunch of actual accessibility features that we want to add. Not a bunch, but a few accessibility features that are appropriate for the game. We want to add them. So anything like that, there's going to be like this one first big push.
Okay.
It's not like a DLC, but it does add some stuff to the game, settings wise and all of that. And then we have a few content stuff, so DLC stuff that we would love to place in the game.
Okay. So there is that wheel at
I
least.
cannot say much about that because I also don't want to disappoint anyone in case it doesn't come to fruition. Again, it depends on how successful the game is.
Yeah, but there's that wheel. There's that. At least there's that.
Yeah,
there's
it's
something...
all like it's we know what to do exactly, right? It's
exactly.
not like something that's maybe if we have, we'll come up with something. No, we already have come up with something. It's some of it is actually stuff that was already planned. Others are things that we thought, what could we do more? And then we, already have that all planned out.
Okay. Cool. So we will have to end in a second. Just wanted to at least overcome part of this challenge. Damn it. This is tight. Very tight. I have to... I mean, I think I'm decent at this, but I'm actually... Platforming is not my... It's not why I usually play some of these games, so I like it. But I struggle a lot, so it's very frustrating to me. Usually I take long breaks in between these sections. But this one is
if you want to, you can just move on. Like you could go check out the boss or something. It's just instead of continuing with the boss area.
Can we do that quite fast? We have very short time, but can you guide me?
If you go down, just go down this room. Don't fight anyone. Just keep going.
Okay. Let's try to get there very fast.
I told you not to fight. Keep going.
Yeah, sorry. Easier said than done sometimes.
True.
Okay, leave me alone.
Bunch of health.
Damn. I got hangry. Just go away, dude. Okay. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Boss fight? Okay. Oh. Classic. It's the... Oh, you guys are kind. We have an health bar. Cool. So you're not... Yes. You're not sadistic in that regard.
No, we tell you how far along you are. Yes, you're going. So for instance, right now, right, you're the thing we mentioned earlier, you're fighting him in persevere mode, right? So he's a little bit stronger than usual.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's still exactly the same behavior. That's one of the things we didn't want to do with bosses, was that would be too harsh. We didn't want to go that direction. So basically he has more HP and does more damage. Like in the bosses, that's the only thing really we'll see that happens. Plus the thing where now when you dash through enemies, they actually damage you, right? Because they have that aura around them.
Yeah.
They have a protective aura. But yeah, essentially, this is in the demo, like the one we decided to show. Is a very pattern type kind of boss,
I can see this being successful, like a more hardcore mode, if you ever thought of that, where you wouldn't just be able to reset perseverance. I can see people doing crazy runs, trying to kind of like just like as you doing, for example, Slay the Spire and roguelike like that, like Ascendance 30. Just like the game is incredibly hard, and people just trying to make it harder.
Yeah, of course, that's one of the stuff for DLCs we were thinking about. It's just the other game modes, which includes one where it's just a hardcore mode, right?
If you tried, so...
But...
yeah, go on.
No, go ahead. I
was just gonna ask something also about that. So yeah, I think we're gonna end here. But I was gonna ask something. If you have uh, okay, we have a someone is teasing you on chat. In a second, but have you tried? Have you tested the game with, for example, speedrunners? So a lot of times I see people testing these games with speedrunners and asking them to go through the game because they have a very specific way of playing the game. Have you got any feedback in that regard?
Sorry, can you rephrase the way you explained that a little
Sorry.
bit? Sorry,
So
it's about
uh,
speed testers, but I didn't understand the question. Sorry.
yeah, no, sorry. A lot of times, people with games like this put these games to the test with speedrunners because they are able to
Hmm.
break the game in ways that you, as a developer, so did not
Ah,
predict.
yes.
Like, have you? Do you have any feedback in that regard? Did you try that? Do you have any game modes for or anything thought about that?
Yes, like the game has had a very very healthy speedrunning community since we
Hmm.
first announced it. Immediately we got speedrunners on it. In fact, most of our mods or biggest fans in the game are speedrunners. Like our
There you go.
Discord server has a lot of speedrunning going on. Um, we know them, a lot of them personally. Like we've met them, like at Gamescom,
Okay.
especially in other events. Um, we have had since the first demo, like the first rough like announcement demo. We've been at on speedrunning.com. Like someone did that for
Okay.
us, Marcus. Shout out to you, man. And yeah, they do help a lot. Like they find bugs more easily, even
Yeah.
stuff that we thought was fixed, but they find a way to break it again.
Exactly.
Stuff like that is always, of course, a headache for Leo, our programmer. But no, but it's actually very very useful, right? And we appreciate it a lot because it's stuff you would have to deal anyway. Once the game came out, you have a lot more people playing, so even if they're not speedrunners, those things will appear, right? Will happen.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, 100%. We've been more than engaged with the speedrunning community. We're actively engaged with them. They ask us questions. We speak directly with them. They send us
Cool.
videos. We watch their streams. And then there's the fact that um, our director, Sebastian, is, I wouldn't call him a speedrunner, but if he wanted to, he could be one. Like
Yeah.
he's very good. Um, I've seen him play games. I like he's a very good player. Part of it because apparently he had a whole phase in his life where he played a lot of rhythm games, which are
Okay.
crazy in terms of like the type of timing that it asks of you.
Yeah.
And so he was the first to set up like the bar for instance the
Okay.
demo of like, okay, try to be faster than this, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, but of course, yeah, players even discover like stuff. But there's a lot even in the game besides like having the speedrun mode where it basically turns on the clock and it on purpose already
Hmm.
discounts
Hmm.
the stuff that wouldn't count for speedrunning, like loading times and all
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
We have that in the game. Besides that, the level design is on purpose designed thinking of speedrunners, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
so
why
you're
even the dash ability is very. I imagine a speedrunner using that like crazy, right? It's just trying to
yes,
optimize that as much as possible.
without spoiling too much, we even have like one or two inspirations that are like good for speedrunners. Though
Hmm.
it's on purpose. Like, is it worth trying to get that thing to
Yeah,
speedrun, or should I speedrun without it? Which one does give more time? Even I don't know the answer, so I'm curious to see what happens. But
yeah.
this kind of stuff, it is both the community we've had in mind since the start of development, and at
Hmm.
the same
Hmm.
time that has been engaged with us
Okay,
and helped us. And so we're very
great,
thankful to the speedrunning community.
great. Okay, well, Edgar, congratulations. This is a great work here. We have to end. We have a question in chat that we may end with that if you can answer that. Do you have pricing for the game already, or a range of pricing for the game that you can share, or not yet?
Yeah, I can share because so we haven't done like an official announcement yet, but we've
Hmm.
been freely answering people that ask us, and so that's fine. Yeah, so the very obvious we're going to be selling it for 19.99, like for the 20.
Okay. Okay.
Um at this point there's not much we can do about that pricing. It has to be that one. Um yeah, and then
Okay.
it's going to be regional. And so for people who always ask, this is always a second follow-up question, which is, will it be regionally adapted? And
Hmm.
the answer is
Hmm.
yes. So for our
Okay.
friends in Brazil and all the other countries, we are making the game the price adaptive to each country's currency.
Okay.
And
Perfect. Well, Edgar, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who watched the stream and asked questions. We will continue with another game next. So, see you guys in a second.
thank you.